Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today I have a stamp highlight video showcasing the brand new Magic Moments stamp set, and I've paired it with the new Ella and Friends stamp set as well. To create my card, I first stamped the elephant from the Ella and Friends on some smooth white cardstock using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and then I colored in the image with Copic markers. And I'm using some of my favorite grays here to color him in, and I like the warm grays, and sometimes I color the elephants a little darker, sometimes a little lighter. It just depends. For this one, I'm going to go a little bit lighter than I normally do, and I'm using some warm grays. I love the warm grays for fur or animals with skin. I also like warm grays for hair. I think there's a little bit more brown or something in the warm grays as opposed to the kind of bluish or purplish tint to the cool grays. So I find them better for coloring in animals and things like that. I'm going to start with doing a really light, or going in with my lightest color, base color, and coloring the entire elephant in. And then I started with my mid-tone, but I decided to switch that up and instead go with my darkest color and add all of my shadowing and things and really darken him up, and then I can go in with my mid-tone color. I'm going to really blend that out, and then I can go back over that as many times as I need to really build up the color and get the shading and shadowing the way I want it to look. So a lot of times, especially with a bigger image like this one is, I really go over it a few times to really get that color exactly the way I want it. And then once I have that, I like to go in with the little dot detail, especially for the elephants. I think it really adds a lot and adds some detail with those little dots and things. I added a little pink cheek and went over it with my lightest warm gray one color to blend it out. Once I have the elephant all colored in, I did stamp the bunny and color it, but I apparently didn't turn my video camera on. It's very small. I only used the W00 and 1 markers and maybe a tiny bit of 3 or 2 or 3, I can't remember, to color or add a little shading there. That's the only thing I did to him, so not a whole lot of coloring. And then I'm taking the Sunny Skies stamp set from Mama Elephant, and I love this Sunray stamp from it, and I'm taking the Mama Elephant pigment inks. I used Buttercup first, and I'm going to create kind of a rainbow background here for my card. The entire card was inspired by the Magic Moments stamp set that says a little magic can take you a long way. And I really wanted it to kind of have that magical feeling to it. So I stamped Orangeade next, and then I am going to go ahead and take, instead of going there then to the left of the orange, I'm actually going to go to the right of the yellow and build my sunray that way. A lot of times I find that that just makes it a little bit easier for me. So I will go ahead and use the lemongrass ink and stamp right to the right of the yellow sun rays. And each time I stamp with the pigment ink, I clean my stamp really well. Whether you use pigment or dye, you want to make sure your stamp is really clean before moving on with the next color. The great thing about the pigment ink is that it doesn't really absorb into the clear stamp. At least these lighter colors don't. So they wipe off really easily, and you can tell that the ink has been removed before you move on to your next color. That's the Rainwater pigment ink there. Again, I didn't ink up the entire stamp because I knew a lot of it would not be stamped on the paper. And this is my actual card base. If I don't have to use a layer, I try not to. It keeps the card much, much flatter. I'll go ahead and clean that up, and then I'm going to use my last sun ray over here clear to the left, and it's going to be the Piggy Bank ink. And I decided to go ahead and not finish off my sun rays like I did there with the purple ink over there. That was the Sweet Lilac pigment ink, and it's really mostly you don't even get to see it except for maybe a tiny, tiny little bit. So I didn't really need it, and I didn't stamp anything to the left over there. I'm using a little Simon Says Stamp green apple cardstock with the Rounded Edge Borderlines Trio Mama Elephant Creative Cuts die, and I die cut that to create a little green landscape for the bottom of my card that I'm going to adhere directly to the bottom of the design. That's part of the reason why I didn't care if my sun rays lined up perfectly. I knew they were going to be hidden behind the landscape. I'm going to attach my elephant here in a little bit, but before I do that, I kind of want to build up the top of my card. This is where I'm going to be placing the greeting, and I wanted to make a little cloud shape using the Landscape Trio cloud die, and I die cut that from some vellum, and I'm going to be stamping on that with a little Versamark ink. Use my powder tool first, and then pick up my sentiment stamp from the Magic Moments stamp set, and we'll stamp that with Versamark and then heat emboss it with white embossing powder. I think white embossing powder really pops. For this particular card, I wanted to keep the colors really bright and fresh and springy. I'm using the Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder. I'll just sprinkle that on, tap off all the excess, and then I'll heat emboss that. Now, before I adhere that to the top of my card, I want to go ahead and take this small little teeny tiny star stamps from the Magic Moments stamp set and create a scattering of stars that are kind of falling down near the cute little critters. And what it will do is it kind of gives the illusion of the bunny reaching up to grab the stars, and the elephant is going to be holding a cute little umbrella from the Ella and Friends stamp set. And I think it makes it really fun. So I just took a wet baby wipe there and folded it and placed it kind of on my work surface so that I could quickly and easily wipe off my stamps in between stamping them. I'm using the exact same colors of pigment ink that I used for the sun rays, and then creating a scattering of these teeny tiny stars. By having that baby wipe there, I can just quickly wipe it off and move on to my next color. So I'll keep adding all of these, and once you really build up that little scattering of stars, I think it really looks fun, like the stars are kind of falling down and the bunny and the elephant are reaching towards them. I'll continue to use all of my colors of pigment ink to build that up. Make sure they're clean in between each. Flipped over my baby wipe to use the other side, so I made sure I got it cleaned up really nicely in between. And then I am going to take the vellum greeting that I embossed and place it along the top of my card to make sure everything fits and that you can see enough stars. You can kind of see them through the vellum, but I wanted to make sure that you can see enough scattering down underneath that cloud. Go ahead and pop my little umbrella on there too. I colored that with the bunny when I thought my video camera was on, and it wasn't, so I apologize for that. It's very small image though, not a whole lot of shading or anything crazy going on there. Now that I can kind of see where the bottom of that cloud is, I can fill in with a couple more stamped stars if I need to. One thing about using vellum is you don't want your adhesive to show through. So I cut a really thin strip of white cardstock and I'm gluing it in place along the top of my vellum. And then I'm placing a thin line of glue along the top of my card, and I can pop that greeting in place and my adhesive is hidden underneath. I placed an acrylic block or anything heavy on top of that to hold it in place while the glue dries. And then I'm taking another sentiment from the Magic Moments stamp set and stamping it with green ink there along the bottom of the card design. I hope you've enjoyed this video showcasing the brand new Magic Moments and Ella and Friends stamp sets from Mama Elephant. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Thanks for watching.